Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Find the Envelope this week, where we're going to discuss one of the great debates regarding who is a more powerful and poignant musical artist, Prince or Michael Jackson.
Now, as avid music listeners, we find one of Brandon and I's first discussions at Blink in 2018, I think, or 2019.
And for reference, Blink was an amazing light festival that we had in the great Midwestern city of Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yes, thank you. One of the first debates that he and I ever had was who was better. And even though I think we both said Prince, when we started to do a little bit more research for this episode, we found that both of them shined in their own ways. But for a lot of surface level listeners of music, it might be an easy comparison just because of the similar vocal styles. But when you really get into their discography and characters, you see how different of musical artists they really were.
I agree. And that's why we actually broke it down into 7 different categories of what we're going to be judging them based off of. So our first one's going to be their overall discography. The second one's going to be their best albums. Their third is going to be their on-stage persona. Their fourth is going to be musical talent. Fifth is going to be voice. Sixth, media presence. And seventh, song. And if you're ready, we can go ahead and I can go ahead and discuss the biographies of the two. So standing in the left corner, we have Michael Jackson, who is usually referred to as the King of Pop. He got his start with his brothers and the group, the Jackson Five, who were Motown, or who started their career with Motowns and then went on to Epic Records, but kind of gave them the catapult to start off with songs such as ABC and I Want You Back, iconic songs of that time period. And he was also born in Gary, Indiana on August 29th of 1958. And then standing at the right corner, we have Prince, who is usually referred to as the high priest of pop, or at least Cameron seems to think that he was referred to as the high prince of pop. But he was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota on June 7th of 1958. So they were born on the same year. Prince, Rogers Nelson, and Michael Jackson were born in 1958. So that's really where this debate kind of begins. I mean, from Indiana to Minnesota, they were fighting each other, with their mighty swords. And that's kind of how we are where we are today. Wouldn't you say so, Cameron?
Yeah, that was a pretty intense tale of the tape, as true fighting fans know. So I think the first thing that we're going to get into here is, like you said, the discography, and this one was a pretty easy one for us to discuss. I think that Michael Jackson's discography is a little bit more all over the place than Prince's is.
Prince has a lot of, there's no denying he has a lot of not exciting stuff, especially once his popular era is over. However, just what Prince was able to do in the late 70s and early 90s, you have For You, his self-titled, 1999, Purple Rain, Around the World in a Day, Parade, Sign of the Times, and Dirty Minds, Controversy. Those are 8 albums just right off, or 9 albums I should say, right off the top of my head that I can note that are far more, or it just like, it's more of he has more going for him than maybe Michael Jackson does. And then everything after that, it is kind of hit or miss. It either sounds really good or kind of little, not bland or not bad, but just not as exciting as it could be.
Yeah, I think that Prince kind of like found his lane and just stayed in it, and Michael Jackson was like, I actually would say like Prince is a little bit more of like a he branches out as a, like, he really pushes himself as an artist, but he definitely finds his topic and just sticks to it. Whereas like Michael Jackson, I think, was a little bit more experimental, at least like instrumental wise. I think that like his like the poppy beats that come in are a little bit more different from one another than Prince's normal technique and routine of looping like his percussion and his bass line over his crazy electric guitar. And Prince found his way, found his recipe for his music, and he stuck to it. And it's not a bad recipe at all. It's just sometimes it gets a little bland, but he definitely has a more solid discography. Whereas Michael Jackson, I think, just kind of went for it sometimes and really fell flat, especially in his later career in the 2000s and the 2010s. It's very forgettable.
Think of it as a boxing match. We have one on the left, one on the right. Michael Jackson, he might be able to punch you with a few, but Prince is going to last all rounds.
Yeah. Prince has a better endurance than Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson has the heavy hitters, but definitely when it comes to discography, Prince is just like solid, like not pushing too far from what he does is definitely going to give him this round, at least in discography.
All right, so round 1, Prince. Round 2, best albums. Cameron and I, we kind of split this into 2 parts, because not really 2 parts, but I think I'm going to make an answer, but it's not a very clear debate, as you would say so.
Yeah, I think that if you look at like just the impact each artist had, their albums had, Thriller, as we found out, is the second best-selling album of all time. Constantly played. I mean, Billie Jean is played at every wedding and like celebration. I feel like that is like one of the most overplayed songs. Thriller, one of the most overplayed songs for Halloween. You always hear that song.
You hear Beat It too.
You hear Beat It all the time too. Sorry, I was getting into Beat It.
Pretty Young Thing. Human Nature.
Thriller is just that big of an album, I think. And the question for me is like, so Michael Jackson also has, Off the Wall and Bad, which are pretty solid albums. Are those 3 able to take on the 10 really good albums that Prince has? Prince has 10 albums that are solid albums, and his top 5 are really good albums. But is Thriller on its own so big that it could overlook those with the help of Off the Wall and Bad, or
Dangerous?
And Dangerous.
Dangerous
isn't as well known or as popular as the other 3.
Yeah, I would say that marks kind of the end of, not necessarily his popularity. His popularity lasts for years, but that kind of ends the whole him creating amazing things.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, that's where it does become a hard thing, because as I said, I named like 9 off the top of my head, and I know he had a few in the 90s and early 2000s that Prince had that were just French kiss.
Like we said, with the discography, Prince's discography was way more consistent, and so when he peaked, I feel like he peaked for a little bit longer, but he didn't peak as high as Michael Jackson.
Yeah, I'd say, but subjectively, Purple Rain is definitely better than Thriller on very many aspects. I mean, that is just Thriller is not. It's a good album to listen to, but it's not like the easiest one to listen to all the way through. But Purple Rain definitely is. I mean, it's just got that 80s off the top, over the wall, creative fantasy like aspect to it, and Thriller just kind of has like that good poppy sound to it. And then what would be some other good ones to compare? Like,
for which one?
Like, say, Off the Wall. What would be that like?
Like 99.
Yeah, 1999. I might give it to Off the Wall. I think Off the Wall is more iconic and is considered one of the best disco albums of all time. 1999. I don't know.
1999 is definitely where Prince finds like his footing. I think that you put it in a pretty good way prior to us recording. Was Prince had sections where he would stick to, so like I've stressed, Prince has that formula, but it's really apparent when you compare like his different like periods in his point, like in his career, sorry. Sorry, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, like late 70s, early 80s definitely has that like 70s kind of funk style to it. 80s has his more creative, over the top 80s styled music, and then his 90s becomes very, it's like goes back to funk, but it goes into like a 90s R&B type of funk, and with whereas where the songs become more about a few clear topics. His 2000 stuff kind of pushes the same territory, but you kind of go into his more, it's more like calm and peaceful, and nothing too exciting happening. And then he has a few weird albums in the 2000s that are just a little, I wouldn't say cringe, but not as exciting as the other ones.
Now here's what I was thinking. So if you compare Off the Wall, Thriller, and Bad, musically, I think they're pretty not crazy different, but they're pretty stylistically different from one another. Whereas Prince's style stays the same. So I think that musically, you could say that those three albums are relatively impressive, just because he was pushing a lot of different,
I was gonna say the last one I was gonna make was Bad and Sign of the Times. And Sign of the Times easily blows Bad out of the water. Like, not, there's no if and or buts. I mean, Prince basically makes a late 80s version of What's Going On in a time where What's Going On would probably more be I mean, obviously 60s you have the civil rights movement, but the late 80s was just a crazy time in our country, and I think Prince perfectly encapsulates that better than Bad did. But Bad is a catchy album. Bad is a very catchy album. I'm gonna say Sign of the Times definitely wins
on Bad or versus Bad.
Yeah,
but as a whole, I'm honestly might give the best albums to Michael Jackson, at least, because if you compare it stylistically, and you compare like success, I think that Michael Jackson definitely shines a little bit more than Prince, if that makes any sense.
I think it is. So basically, Cameron's going for what's more iconic for what they have, and I'm going for maybe
a subjective.
I definitely think this is better. So again, this is one where it's a tie. If we're keeping track here, we both said Prince for the first one. I said Prince for the second one, but Cameron said Michael Jackson.
I'm going to say Michael Jackson for the second one.
We got another debate.
So the third topic that we thought would be fitting is just on-stage personas, because when you think of Michael Jackson, there is definitely, the iconic, I guess, I was going to say look, but it's more of like just his glove that's iconic. But I mean, I guess his like, the Smooth Criminal getup was kind of his like style after Bad, like.
Yeah, from that point on till like he died.
He always had like the fedora and like the, or was it? It was a fedora, wasn't it?
Yeah, fedora. Yeah. It's like, I think he's like mostly black and white, like the sun.
Yeah,
and a glove.
And then Prince's like whole getup was all over the place. Like he was a big cross dresser, and his wardrobe was massive. But I feel like his most iconic look was the Purple Rain look, where he's in his purple leather on the bike and everything.
That, or just like maybe like a long jacket that's like purple and with like I think white underneath it, and he did dress all over the place. So it's not as easy to pinpoint. But
yeah, I feel like at least with his onstage persona, it was a little bit more of a specific like type of audience that really like his persona resonated with. And I think that the more like woke times of the 2010s and more like modern day makes us appreciate that a little bit more. But at least in the 80s, it was just such a niche audience, and even in the 90s, that I feel like it was his persona was definitely outshined by Michael Jackson's, just because Michael Jackson's was a little bit more reserved and like, conservative, in the sense that he stayed in one, like he had just one look, It's
kind of the same that we've made for the past two arguments. Michael Jackson has the harder punches, but Prince has the endurance. Because Michael Jackson, he has, as we said, we had his Smooth Criminal and Glove, and then obviously we have his Moon Dance.
Well, you could also compare Purple Rain's get up to the Thriller get up of like the iconic red leather that Michael Jackson wore. I feel like that was pretty iconic.
Okay,
too.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I guess we're throwing more into the formula. You're right. You're right. I don't know. I think like in terms of like presence, like where you see him like live, I'd probably much rather see Prince live just because he's gonna put on like the greatest show in the history of all time. I mean, after George Harrison's death, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame did "While My Guitar Gently Weeps," and Prince has just one of the goats of like solo perform. Well, not solo, but like he has like an amazing solo. But his performance in just like those few minutes alone are just enough to make a life worth living.
Whereas, so I think it's really hard to pinpoint their personas and compare them to one another, just because Michael Jackson, at the heart of it, was more of a pop artist, where Prince was he dabbled in a lot of different genres.
Avant-garde.
He's avant-garde.
I think it's avant.
I say avant.
Tomatoes, tomatoes.
I think so. It's really hard to like look at two concerts that are in different venues and different setups, except for maybe the Super Bowl concerts. I think that if you compared those two,
Prince.
It's definitely Prince. Yeah.
That's like one of the most mystical moments in like music history because he's performing this larger than life event, which is the Super Bowl, and then like obviously one of his most iconic songs is "Purple Rain," and then just pouring down rain, and then he has this amazing solo there too. I mean, yeah. My vote for on-stage persona is definitely going to go to Prince.
I think I would give it to Prince too, just because I think he was a lot more like theatrical, whereas Michael Jackson, similarly to Prince's discography, kind of stayed in one lane, and he didn't really do much on stage except exercise his voice and grab his boys.
Whoa, take it easy. Wait, what do you mean grab his boys? You grab his own personal boys or his friends?
Whoa. So I think that I would probably give this one to Prince too. So I think the next one we're going to go into is musical talent. And so this one is such a big topic just because both artists had their own way of tackling their music, where Michael Jackson was heavily reliant on his voice. He didn't really do much else outside of that. And Prince, he pretty much did everything, especially like on his debut. Prince did everything on his debut. He didn't have any help. Like he did all the instrumentals and all the voices on.
Yeah, I'd say musical talent-wise, probably definitely going to go to Prince. I mean, not only did he play all these instruments, he played them to perfection to where like you could hear it on his like albums, and then have other people learn his own material so that they could perform it live, like The Revolution and whatever stage performers came after. Not only do you have that aspect, you have the aspect that this guy was creating an insane amount of music. Like, what'd you say the number was, Cameron? Like,
he'd make like I think it was a song every year or every day. Sorry. So like, I mean, in his later career, that would be like well over a few thousand. Like he just kept writing.
Yeah, like his vault is very infamous and it just has so many things that we're gonna enjoy for the rest of our life now. So maybe he was smart in that aspect, and where like instead of having to satisfy us like then, he's gonna satisfy us like for longer, because his stuff's going to keep getting released and make sure his legacy ensues. So maybe we might see where his musical talent is definitely going to be remembered even after Michael Jackson. I mean, Michael Jackson's never going to go away, but we might see something in these vaults that really shows something.
Now, the only problem I have with Prince as a musical artist is the fact that he pushed himself to learn so much, and I think that I'm not trying to discredit him as musically talented, but I think that people kind of overblow like how many instruments he learned, because like if you look at like what he's credited to knowing, a lot of it is just like very basic percussion. I think I even read like finger snaps was on there, and that's not an instrument. Like that's just rhythmic timing. And
I'll make the debate that it is. Mayonnaise is an instrument.
yeah, I was gonna say that's kind of that. I mean, it's not, but it's kind of like saying mayonnaise is an instrument. But I think that when you look at all of the instruments that he learned, the one that he really knew was definitely the guitar. And when you listen to his music, his other instrumentals are definitely much more bland. Like if you took away his voice and his guitar and was just listening to the bass and the percussion and everything else, it's always on a loop, which is my biggest problem with Prince's music. Even if the loop does sound really good, I think that it's once I noticed it in all of his songs now. And you can argue that all bands do that, but when you have like different artists coming together, like for example, like if we look at like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, those are four very talented artists coming together. And even if it is on a loop, it feels very personable and way more lively than than Prince's like almost like cookie cutter like loops. Like I don't really know how to explain it, but it's just that's the one problem that I have as Prince's musical talent is, yes, he did technically learn all these instruments, but he didn't really like master them. So I think that sometimes he's given a little too much credit. But at the same
Jackson
time,
didn't do much either.
no, I'm not. This isn't me coming at or trying to push up Michael Jackson. This is just me critiquing Prince. Michael Jackson's definitely, and that's why we made our next topic, because music or as a musical artist, Prince definitely is better. But I was just critiquing him as a musical artist.
So yeah, this is another one where it's definitely debatable, but voice. Who has the better singing abilities?
I think that it's very easy, but you are having.
I'm not saying it's necessarily easy. I'm saying I'm very in the middle about it. I guess we can make the analogy again. Michael Jackson's hitting harder, like early on, but endurance-wise, Prince is. But Michael Jackson does have a very solid voice. I'm not taking that away from him. There's clearly a reason he is one of the biggest pop stars of all time, and you don't get that by auto-tune, at least in the 80s you don't. You might get that in the 2010s, but you don't get that in the 80s and 90s. I just think like Prince was more like, he was going out there, he was trying to hit things. Maybe even he couldn't even hit, but he was still doing it pretty good. I think his vocal range is a little larger, but whatever the vocal range that Michael Jackson used, he understood was perfect for him. I'm going to let you talk. I might change my opinion on what I originally said, but you're either going to have to sell me or you're not going to sell me at this moment.
So when it comes to this kind of goes off of what I was saying as Prince as a musical talent. When you look at the two artists, I think that it's more quality over quantity. And I'm not trying to say that Prince wasn't a quality, like his music wasn't like good quality. It definitely was, and he's going to go down as one of the greatest. But if you single out just voice, Michael Jackson focused just his voice, and I think that his voice was a lot stronger. And even though I would definitely give like the most ambitious voice to Prince, I think that sometimes on the songs where he really tries to push his voice, you can sometimes see like the almost like I wouldn't say cracks, but like he doesn't have a bad voice. It's just not as strong as Michael Jackson's. Like for example, if you listen to Kiss, that is a very like big vocal range for Prince. He definitely pushes his highs and his lows in that song. But I think that his highs are very weak, where it's very kind of like squeaky almost, and not as strong as like when Michael Jackson hits a note. When Michael Jackson would push the notes, I think that it was a lot more fulfilled, and like it was a lot fuller, I guess is what I was trying to say. And I think just voice wise, it's definitely an easy pick towards Michael Jackson. I think that his voice is very iconic, and that is really his biggest weapon if you were to debate Prince and Michael Jackson. Like I said, musically as an artist, I think Prince definitely is better. He definitely has a lot more musical talent, but Michael Jackson focused on his voice, and if you were to single that out, I think that it would just be it's pretty obvious that Michael Jackson is a little bit better of a singer than Prince is. I think here's what I think. I think that you agree with me, but you like Prince, that you don't want to that this is a biased pick. I don't think that this is a completely, fair battle. I think that this is a biased pick.
Just give it to Michael Jackson. You're right. Michael Jackson's voice is so iconic that you would know what song you listen to. Prince, you would know if you knew his big songs, but you might not know if you played one of his more obscure songs.
Well, see, this is where I think the debate really stems from, is when people listen to a Prince song, at least first listen, a lot of people mistaken him for Michael Jackson. They think that it's a Michael Jackson song. I
think for the longest time, before I got really into music, I obviously had heard his song "Kiss" because that is one of his most iconic. But I didn't know that was Prince's song.
Yeah.
But if you hear something like Thriller, or even some obscure song of Michael Jackson's from the '90s, early 2000s, okay, that's definitely Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
All right, you know what? Let him have it. Let him have it. Just let him have it.
I don't think you've given a point to Michael Jackson yet. I think that's going to be the first
one. I think I'll give him a point on the next one.
The media presence?
Yeah.
I think, I would probably say that Michael Jackson's media presence was at least, I don't know, more apparent. So when I think about media presence, I think about it before he died, before, all the other stuff came out, at least. The bad stuff that he did, the secrets that were let loose.
You mean I don't know what you mean.
When he was grabbing other people's boys and not his own boys.
You mean the Neverland Ranch stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're just trying to make me squirm here.
Squirm.
So, if we look at the 80s, I think Michael Jackson's media presence was definitely better, especially music video wise. And if you look at Prince's media presence, he had I think you told me this, he kind of helped founded the parental advisory sticker, which is a lot more controversial. And I think it's funny to think about now how crazy and controversial Prince's music probably was in the 80s. We weren't alive, so we can't really attest to this, but I would imagine the 80s were pretty, at least a lot of people were probably turned off by how sexual Prince was, because that's pretty much what Prince always sings about is sex. He doesn't stray too far away from that, but when he does, he does from time to time,
in Sign of the Times.
In Sign of the Times. And I think that definitely probably hurt his image in the 80s, at least. I don't know. It's hard to say just because neither of us were alive.
Yeah, I wish I wasn't alive in the 80s, because I hate when people say that they wish they were alive in the 80s, and it just shows that you have a certain personality trait that's awful. What was I saying? Okay.
I don't know. It's hard I don't know where you were going with that.
So, Prince, if we're comparing movies and stuff, obviously movies are, I guess, sort of played an aspect in the artist in those days. Purple Rain definitely beats The Wiz by 1,000 to 1. Purple Rain is one of the best musical movies of all time. Before maybe The Hard Day's Night from the Beatles is definitely the best musical theme movie of all time.
What about The Wall?
I might say Purple Rain's a little better than.
Oh my, okay.
Yeah, we're gonna fight about this. As soon as we turn that mic off, we're fighting about that. The Wiz is awful. The Wiz is just a POS. But when you think about like music videos, like Prince has like When Doves Cry, and maybe Little Red Corvette when it comes to like music videos that people might know, but Michael Jackson definitely wins on that. I mean,
yeah.
Thriller is that is the most iconic music video of all time.
Oh, almost definitely.
And then if he doesn't have that, then he definitely has it with Beat It, Billie Jean.
Smooth Criminal's pretty iconic.
Smooth Criminal. I was trying to think the bad one they're kind of in like a parking, or not parking lot, but parking garage.
That's Beat It when they're in the parking lot, right?
I thought Bad also took place, or I'm pretty sure Bad does too, or at least I think the Weird Al Yankovic one does.
I wouldn't be surprised if Bad did. I don't like watching music videos all that much, and I've seen almost all of the ones that you've mentioned, so I think that should.
I think Black and White is also pretty iconic just because it has Macaulay Culkin when he's like at the height of his fame or height of his career.
But now we know why he was there.
Because they were good friends.
They were good friends. Yeah, when we first started talking about media presence, I completely just forgot about music videos. But yeah, you definitely added that to what I was already, like the Thriller's, like you said, most iconic music video of all time. So I mean, like music video wise, it's definitely Michael Jackson.
And what's weird and what kind of is unfortunate is like maybe Prince could have had one if like he didn't like. I think for most of them, he didn't lock him up in a vault, but he just like didn't give him like enough recognition, or he was just like too busy. Like, because if you notice, like Prince has like a lot of random music videos for a lot of songs, but like if maybe he would have focused on a few of the songs, he could have had that. Like the When Doves Cry, that's a pretty
iconic one.
That's a pretty iconic one.
Him crawling across the floor, and yeah, I mean it is pretty iconic.
Yeah, the only way I might give it to Prince is like through his Super Bowl performance, which we talked about earlier, and how amazing it was, because it definitely beats Michael Jackson's. I mean, even in iconicism, that without a doubt beats Michael Jackson's. But I'm okay with giving Michael Jackson this one too.
I think you also kind of have to look at like how relevant to like headliners they were, and as controversial as Michael Jackson was, at least in the 2000s, I think that he was always like, everybody always knew, how crazy he was. You kind of get what I'm saying?
I get what you're throwing out. Plus, I guess you can also say that Michael Jackson had like a prolonged stage presence too, because obviously with the Jackson 5, I mean, it's basically Michael just singing his little song, and his brothers in the back going like, playing their percussion, snapping their fingers, and singing a little lighter than Michael. So
yeah.
And didn't they hologram?
Michael Jackson?
I think they hologrammed.
No, they have that was going to be my next one. Was like, I think that he was just so big that they hologrammed him, and
so we really don't even need to make any more musical artists, because they're just going to hologram all the good ones like Michael Jackson.
All the good ones. Yeah.
Is there another aspect to media presence, or do we? I mean, we're definitely giving it to Michael Jackson. I'm just trying to think like, story wise, outside of, what could or couldn't have happened at Neverland. I think the Dave Chappelle bit on Prince is really funny. Have you ever seen it? No. That's a pretty iconic like show bit where basically it's like Dave Chappelle it's like Charlie Murphy, Eddie Murphy's brother, like playing basketball with Prince, and Prince was really good, but still like have this like outlandish like ambiguity style personality. It's a really funny bit, but I'm tired of kind of prologuing this. It's Michael Jackson.
So
speaking of ambiguity, though, I do have a quick little story. So the beginning of 2020, I actually was fortunate enough to take a trip up to Minneapolis, Minnesota. It is a really beautiful city, by the way. Very clean, very, very opening, it feels like. Obviously, Prince is a little bit more known from coming from Minneapolis than Michael Jackson is from Gary, Indiana. And also Gary, Indiana is one of the poop stands of America, except for maybe the Indiana Dunes National Park, which is very beautiful.
Sorry if anyone's listening from Gary, Indiana.
I don't care. But yeah, I had the pleasure of also seeing the bar that made him famous, First Avenue. It's like a low key little bar that's touristy but still gets the job done. But then I happened to find myself in a little record store in Minneapolis because I like records. Not Electric Fetus. I wasn't aware that was a big thing until after I had already gone there, of course. Yeah, and then I was just kind of talking. I was like, "Oh yeah, I love Prince. Prince is one of the greatest artists of all time." And then she was like, "Oh, well, this woman that I was talking to, she's like, oh yeah, I was a roadie with Prince, and it was just so amazing because I knew him, but I didn't feel like I actually knew him because he was just this out of this world mystical character. He was so ambiguous, and I wish I could have gotten to really know him, but that was his allure." I was like, "Okay, lady." It's cool. It is cool that I got to hear that story, but it's like I could have done with all of the theatrical stuff.
But that's a true story. That's not like a bit or anything. Like that actually happened to Brandon.
Yeah, legitimately. It was like one of the weirdest. Like, okay, like I love Prince. I love his allure, but this is weird.
All right. Before we get into songs, I think we're gonna take a little break. So we'll be right back with that.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. So our last part of our little debate is going to be songs. And we actually went on Reddit, where you can find almost anything that you want to know. And we found a list that we actually are going to go off of in terms of, it's basically like a versus type of thing, where it's MJ versus Prince's song. You pick which one's better, and we're going to tally it up and figure out who wins in accordance to both of our picks.
Yep. So you want to get it started?
I do. So the round one is going to be Want to Be Started Something versus Let's Go Crazy. Let's Go Crazy.
I was going to say, I would definitely give this to Let's Go Crazy. It's like my favorite intro.
Yeah, it's one of the best intros of all time. Want to Be Started Something's good, but if it was up against something else, maybe. But round two, Smooth Criminal, Little Red Corvette. Little Red Corvette.
I think it's a little bit closer, but I would probably give it to Little Red Corvette too.
Ooh, 3, Off the Wall or Delirious? Definitely Off the Wall.
I like Delirious too much. I'm giving it to Delirious. It's so just silly on 1999. I just like the synth on it, where it's just kind of like it almost sounds like a squeaky toy or something. Like I think it's just so silly.
Wonderful. And then round 4, we have In the Closet or Cream.
Cream. It's Cream. The cowbell. Oh my gosh, I need more cowbell.
More cowbell. More cowbell. 5 is You Are Not Alone or Diamonds and Pearls. Definitely Diamonds and Pearls.
I don't know. I think I'm gonna pick You Are Not Alone on this one, just because I like the very soft spoken Michael Jackson. He definitely exercises his voice really well on You Are Not Alone, but that might also just be because I'm trying to.
Dang, have you really not picked a Michael Jackson one yet?
Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm looking down this list, I'm just like, something's not right here.
Maybe if I was being more generous right now, I would definitely, if this was picked up a little bit higher, I'd give it, but since I'm so biased towards Prince right now, I'm gonna give a bone to Michael Jackson and say You Are Not Alone.
Diamonds and Pearls for me, but that's okay. We each have our opinions, and yours just happens to suck. So, round 6 is Pretty Young Thing and I Would Die For You. Ooh.
I'm gonna give it to.
That's hard.
I would give it to PYT.
I'm gonna give it to PYT too. It's very close though. It's very, very close, but I think I'm gonna give it to PYT.
Yeah.
Next one is Dirty Diana. You Got the Look. Probably
Dirty
You
Diana.
Got the Look. Interesting. We both said it so confidently, like we were both gonna say the same answer.
You Got the Look. It's not a bad song, but I just like Dirty Diana better.
Yeah, I mean, Dirty Diana's so good, but I just feel like You Got the Look is catchier, at least in my ears.
I mean, you Got the Look definitely would be catchier, but I think I like Dirty Diana better still.
All right, round 8, Human Nature, The Most Beautiful Girl in the World. Most Beautiful Girl in the World. That's easily, without a doubt, my favorite Prince song.
Your favorite? You say that every time.
I know. I do say it every time. No, it's not my favorite, but I think The Beautiful Ones is my favorite. Then probably The Most Beautiful Girl in the World. Then Adore. Then Purple Rain. Then 1999.
I'll give it to The Most Beautiful Girl in the World too. It is better.
Every song of Prince is my favorite though. You know this.
Yeah.
I Can't Help It. Sign of the Times.
Sign of the Times.
Sign of the Times. Easy. Oh, whoa. Thing just expanded a lot. Where were we at? Got the look. All right, Scream or Kiss?
Kiss is my favorite Prince song, so
Yeah, I'll
it
give it
was
to
gonna.
Kiss.
Yeah.
Which is probably my favorite Prince song of all time. You Rock My World or Take Me With You? This one definitely is You Take Me With You.
It's
Or
you
take
me.
Take Me
you
With
take
You.
You take me.
You
with
know what
you.
I meant.
Yeah, Take Me With You's a pretty solid track after Let's Go Crazy, and it's my hidden favorite of Purple Rain, so I agree.
Yeah, it's one of the better ones of Purple Rain for sure. Probably one of my favorites. Thriller or If I Was Your Girlfriend?
I'm gonna have to give it to Thriller just because of how iconic and big Thriller is as a song.
I agree. The Lady in My Life or Adore?
Ooh.
Adore.
Adore? You said that so confidently.
That's one of the best ending tracks of an album of all time. That's on Sign of the Times.
The Lady in My Life, that was the one that we listened to prior to this, wasn't it? Yeah, I think I like Lady in My Life more than Adore.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that sucks because it's a shitty pick, but
You're gonna hate this next pick too.
oh yeah, Bad or Raspberry Beret?
I think it's Bad. I think Bad's pretty
Definitely Raspberry Beret.
over Bad.
Yeah, I love
don't
Raspberry Beret.
It's not a bad. It's a really good song. Like Raspberry Beret is like definitely top 5 Prince songs for me.
Back when I was a young man, about 40
It'd probably
years
be number
ago.
5.
Well, I was gonna say back when I was a young man, 40 years ago, I had there was these things called cars, and they had that you could play compact disc, and I might have had the Prince's greatest hit, the compact disc, and I would just always be so looking forward to hearing Raspberry Beret.
know.
It's probably one of my favorite.
I'm sorry. How many world records has a Raspberry Beret been used to set? Because I know
Who cares about
Bad
world records?
Bad was set by the world's fastest talking man.
Good for
And
that guy.
he read Bad off. And
I honestly would probably take Weird Al's version over Michael Jackson's.
what? You're out of your gourd, man. Bad's better than Raspberry.
All right, Beat It or
Beret.
Darling Nikki?
Beat It.
Beat It. Yeah, Darling Nikki is probably one of the weaker tracks on Purple Rain, but it did kind of start the parental advisory, or at least the debate over that. So maybe that's worth noting.
What if it was Beat It versus Raspberry Beret? Would you still pick Raspberry Beret?
Yes,
Beat It's so good though.
I guess. I mean, it does have
I'm sorry.
E-
Who's
EVH?
the guest guitarist on Raspberry Beret?
EVH, bro. one of the greatest guitarists of all time. We know this, but I don't know. I just love just the jazzy element of Raspberry Beret.
No, I think Michael Jackson wins both of those.
All right, Rock With You or Nothing Compares to You? Ooh, that's a hard one. I'm gonna go Rock With You,
I think I'll go Rock With You too.
and then Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. 1999. This is probably the hardest one on this whole list. I'm not gonna lie. I'm going Don't Stop Till You Get Enough.
I think I'll go Don't Stop too because 1999. The lyrics are just kind of dumb. I think.
I don't think they're dumb. I can get on board with them.
I think
but,
it's just poorly worded.
But they're talking about the end of the world.
2000.
It's-
200,000.
That's the point. It's supposed to be whimsical. 1999 is a whimsical album. It's supposed to showcase Prince, who he is as a theatrical artist.
It's not. 1999 is not theatrical.
Yes, it is. It's
No,
like
it
a
is
fun
not.
theatrical. It's like a.
No, it's not.
It's not a basic
theatrical.
album.
1999 is more of a poppy album, like more of like a radio album than theatrical. When I
It's
think
like-
theatrical, I think of like The Wall or Purple Rain is theatrical, where like it's like almost like a
They're definitely more theatrical. But I'm saying this is like the start where you get to see who Prince really is. you know?
no. I don't think that's a theatrical, but it's still Don't Stop.
Yeah.
Don't Stop. Sorry, not to go off on that tangent.
All right,
I
so-
definitely grinded some gears there with you, didn't I?
All right, the next one is The Way You Make Me Feel or The Beautiful Ones. I'm definitely going with The Beautiful Ones.
I don't know. I might give it to MJ again.
Interesting. Remember the time of Purple Rain. Purple Rain. Oh. I see that look. Dude, Cameron has this look in his eyes like he's definitely not or he's at least debating. He's definitely going to pick Purple Rain, but he's definitely.
What's the score? No, don't tell me the score right now. Don't tell me the score, because I don't want to pick bias to the score.
No bias to the score. Come on, this is Purple Rain, bro. I mean, while it is overplayed, it is one of the greatest songs of all time. I mean, that's probably one of the reasons that Eric Clapton considers like Prince to be one of the greatest guitarists of all time, and that's Eric Clapton, bro. Eric Clapton. Come on, bro. It's just an easy pick, and you know it. It's an easy pick, and you know it. Quit with the malarkey.
I'm gonna go with
Remember the Time. Quit with that malarkey, bro. Are you serious?
Purple Rain. You think Purple Rain's guitar solo is better than When Doves Cry's guitar solo?
Well, no, but it's better than Remember the Time. Do you think anyone listen to Michael Jackson's like, oh, I really like this song, Remember the Time. It's my favorite of his. No, but when people talk about Prince, what's your favorite Prince song?
But I think
Purple
if
Rain.
you compare the two, Remember the Time's pretty structurally comparative to Purple Rain, right?
I wouldn't say that. There's like very next to no songs in human history that compare structure-wise to...
Yeah, but Purple Rain's like a more slowed down song. Remember the Time is too, isn't it? Or am I thinking of a different song?
No, I'm pretty sure it is, but it's still... That's an awful pick, Cameron. That is your worst pick. It's fine. It's whatever. It's his worst pick.
I think Purple Rain's just...
It's fine.
Overplayed.
Oh, I bet you.
I think Purple Rain's also has pretty simple lyrics too.
What? It's a simple love ballad. All right, whatever. He only wants to see you laughing in the Purple Rain. It's fine.
Fine, I'll pick Purple Rain.
No. Well, I've already tallied it down. I can't simply just go back and erase it.
Just put Purple Rain.
No, it's not. It's not.
You're
That's
so
not
offended.
How it's going to work. All right, Billie Jean or When Doves Cry. When Doves Cry. That's a hard one, but probably When Doves Cry.
Yeah, When Doves Cries definitely.
All right, I'll quickly tally these.
I wish it was Billie Jean versus Purple Rain. That would have been.
Yeah, that would have been maybe
what if it
argument.
you,
that maybe
Billie Jean versus Purple Rain? You'd still pick Purple
out of
Rain.
bopability, maybe because of the bopability factor.
You pick Billie Jean, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But Remember the Time just doesn't have that bopability factor.
Purple Rain isn't a boppable song.
It can be if you make it.
It's you don't compare boppable songs. See, so Brandon and I were looking at a list prior to this one, and it was just comparing songs like just randomly to they were just like hits versus the just random songs that were picked out, right? Like they weren't like good comparisons, and I don't even remember where I was going with this. Oh, they were comparing like pop songs versus the more ballady songs that the two artists have. I think sitting here trying to argue that it's Remember the Time versus Purple Rain, having such a hard time remembering how Remember the Time goes, I might just pick Purple Rain out of default though.
No, it doesn't work like that. You had one chance and you fucked it up.
I was trying to think of what Remember the Time was like. How does Remember the Time go? And see, that's the reason why I think Purple Rain is gonna be my pick.
I already tallied.
No, I'm saying Purple Rain. I'll say Purple Rain.
I really don't care what you say.
I'm saying Purple Rain.
Oh, good for you. Must be nice, but that's not what I'm doing.
What's the score? What'd you get?
I hope my math's correct here, but yours is 11 MJ, 9 Prince, and mine is 7.
No. Is that with Purple Rain to Prince?
No, it's not.
So then I actually had 10 to 10
no,
then.
You don't.
Yes, I do.
You're not playing these games.
Yes,
you did it with the last. You did it with the last list too.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did. You tied. You tied in the last list.
But I didn't go back on anything.
Oh, I don't care. Mine's 7 to 13. Mine's a little bit more apparent that I definitely would prefer Prince's music, but no, you did it. You're gonna have to live with that decision. It's MJ over Prince, and I know in discussions you've said that you would probably like barely pick Prince just due to him being more of like a musically inclined artist with a more solid discography. So I'm just really disappointed in you. You had your chance.
I'm having such a hard time remembering Remember the Time, but I know that it was a ballady song, isn't it?
I think it is a ballady song, but I don't care. The fact that you would pick anything that isn't one of.
We gotta add some controversy
I
to
don't
these
care.
episodes, right?
Well, we do, and what's controversial is that you picked 11 MJ, 9 Prince, and I picked
Well-
7 MJ, 13 Prince.
If I'm being fair here, I also picked "You Are Not Alone" just because I was picking so many Prince songs, and those two are pretty good. Like "You Are Not Alone" versus "Diamond and Pearls,"
Do we
they're
have
pretty
to do this again?
they're pretty comparable, but I would say that "Diamond and Pearls" is definitely like my personal preference over them. But if you compare them structurally,
Do we
I
have
think
to
You
do
Are
this?
Not
Do we have to
Alone.
do this again?
no. If I would switch to "Purple Rain" because I'm having such a hard time remember the time.
Maybe
That's the only one that I would switch that I picked.
10. So what are you gonna do now?
I was just
It's 10
trying to
10.
grind your gears.
So it's 10 to 10. That means you're gonna have to make an argument. Why? Because you have like basically a tiebreaker, everything else. So this was supposed to be your tiebreaker. Mine was more apparent.
Yeah, but yours was very apparent. You know what this episode is? It's not Prince Lover, it's Prince versus Michael Jackson. We're supposed to be debating the
All right, give your reasoning, bro.
give my reasoning for what.
But you had to pick a tiebreaker. Like, who are you gonna pick over the two?
I pick the Prince of Pop, Justin Bieber, actually. So
All right,
man, you are just really upset by this, aren't you?
Yeah,
Why?
this is really gonna upset me the rest of the day.
Why?
You know why? You were on some games. You were playing games, bro. You were trifling.
Trifling for what?
You know what you were doing. You said, "Remember the time is better than Purple Rain."
I was just
And then
saying
you
that
tried
to get a
going back
rise.
on it.
I was
Then
just trying to get a rise out of you.
Well, you did a great job, didn't you?
Everyone knows Purple Rain's better than Remember the Time.
Yeah,
I can't even sit here and sing the lyrics to Remember the Time.
that was my whole point. That was my whole point. It's fine. So you think Prince is better because in the past you said it's due to his discography and just him being more musically talented.
But
So
you're
that's
just fed up. I've never seen Brandon this flustered before. He just wants to end the episode. He keeps making the end the episode hand motion. He's just really mad right now. Find out next episode if Brandon and I still do the podcast.
Yeah, I think I know we did have one last one planned with our, the best final albums of an artist's career, and that is due to whether, they either pass away or they officially retire. Who knows? We might not even do it. We're about to have a really long, serious discussion about life. But we do appreciate you guys for coming and listening to this album. You didn't
even let me say who I preferred.
I thought we already said it. I thought we agreed on Justin Bieber over here.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, I definitely personally prefer Prince over Michael Jackson, but I think Michael Jackson had a better impact of the 80s than Prince. I think that genre-wise, Michael Jackson was more of a pop star than Prince. But with the modern day wokeness of society, I think Prince will last or have a bigger impact on like being yourself, considering how Prince was a very like flamboyant person who cross-dressed and sang about controversial topics, that being sex of the 80s. So I would say that it's hard to gauge who has the bigger impact in the future, just because of how woke society is, especially towards Michael Jackson, the controversy that came after. So Prince is definitely my favorite, though.
Yeah, Prince is definitely my top 5. I'd probably put him maybe third after. I'd probably put Kanye and.
Whoa! You picked Kanye over Prince? Prince is the obvious. What's better than Purple Rain of Kanye's? Never Falls Down. What?
You mean All Falls Down?
Or All Falls Down, sorry.
Maybe. I don't know. I'd have to think about.
You said maybe to All Falls Down over Purple Rain and got mad at me talking about Remember the Time over versus Purple Rain. You're crazy.
But either him or Simon and Garfunkel with focus on Paul Simon's solo career. But then I'd put him third.
I'm exploiting his bias right now. So
All
and it's
right.
making him very uncomfortable.
It is making me uncomfortable, but it's okay. I still love Prince. There's no denying. Clearly, you are not that much of a Prince lover because you were about to pick Remember the Time over Prince, but it's fine. Now, let's sign off. Let's thank our audience for listening to our episode. Hope you had a fun time listening to our shenanigans. Maybe or maybe you won't hear another one in a few weeks. But we thank you so much, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.